that I am going to talk about myself, which I rarely do because well, for one thing, I prefer to talk about things I know nothing about. And secondly, I'm a recovering narcissist. And I didn't know I was a narcissist, actually. I thought narcissism meant you love yourself, and then someone told me there's a flip side to it. So it's actually drearier than self-love. It's unrequited self-love. I don't feel I can afford a relapse. But I want to, though, explain how I came to design my own particular brand of comedy, because I've been through so many different forms of it. I started in improvisation, in a particular form of improvisation called theater games, which had one rule, which I always thought was a great rule for an ethic for a society, and the rule was you couldn't deny the other person's reality. You could only build on it. And of course, we live in a society that's all about contradicting other people's reality. It's all about contradiction, which I think is why I'm so sensitive to contradiction in general, while I see it everywhere. Like polls, you know, it's always curious to me that in public opinion polls, the percentage of Americans who don't know the answer to any given question is always 2%. 75% of Americans think Alaska is part of Canada, but only 2% don't know the effect that the debacle in Argentina will have on the IMF's monetary policy. To me, is a contradiction. Or this ad that I read in the New York Times: wearing a fine watch speaks loudly of your rank in society. Buying it from us screams good taste. Or this that I found in a magazine called California Lawyer, in an article that Shirley meant for the lawyers at Enron. Surviving the slammer, do's and don'ts. Don't use big words. Learn the lingua franca. Yeah, lingua this, Frankie. And I suppose it's a contradiction that I talk about science and when I don't know math, you know, because, and by the way, I was so grateful to Dean Kamen for pointing out that one of the reasons, that there are cultural reasons that women and minorities don't enter the fields of science and technology. Because, for instance, the reason I don't do math is I was taught to do math and read at the same time. So you're 6 years old, you're reading Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It becomes rapidly obvious that there are only two kinds of men in the world, dwarves and Prince Charmings, and the odds are 7 to 1 against your finding the prince. That's why little girls don't do math. It's too depressing. Of course, by talking about science, I also may, as I did the other night, incur the violent wrath of some scientists who were very upset with me. And I think it was, I used the word postmodern as if it were okay. And they got very upset. And one of them, to his credit, I